All right. So, for our first segment, we're going to be talking about France's setbacks going into far right nationalism. And I think our resident French person should go ahead and lead us off. So, Cindy, what have you got?
Yeah, so it's this is an article from the New York Times from about a week ago, and it talks about a sanction taken by the lower chamber of the French Parliament towards a representative whose name is Grégoire de Fournas, after what we can say is a very, very racist comment. Um, Now, you know what? Let me rephrase that because it means that there are not so much racist comment, and no, everything is racist. So yeah, he said something very racist. We're going to see what, and there's been a battle in the last 3 weeks between France and Italy regarding a migrant boat called Océan Viking, containing 234 migrants, um, and each country telling the other one that they have to take the boat and the migrants. Um, this boat has been rescued by an NGO called SOS Méditerranée. That's basically what they do. They go around in the Mediterranean and they rescue migrant boats pretty much every week. And so while a black representative from a leftist party, Carlos Martens Bilongo, was talking about the boat, Grégoire de Fournas shouted, "Back to Africa." And so because of that, he's been expelled from the chamber for 2 weeks and lost half of his income for 2 months. So while it's fair to say that it's impossible to tell uh, from the words he used if he was talking about migrants or the representative, or maybe both, it's just one more proof that the sanitization of the far right party by Marine Le Pen is just publicity. In reality, the people in this party are very, very much racist, xenophobic, and quite often anti-Semitic as well. So, what do you guys think?
Well, I'll jump in here. The first thing I want to point out is the quote punishment that he received. I think that, like you mentioned, Cindy, the fact that he only lost his salary for let's see, he got barred from the building for 2 weeks and deprived of half of his pay for 2 months. For the comment that he made, I really do not think that's an adequate punishment, except especially for someone who is in a position of power like he is. It's a start, and I think it's more than many countries would do in terms of punishment. But as the article states, even if he was just talking about the boat carrying migrants, it's racist regardless. It's racist no matter what. So, and arguably, it's almost worse if he's talking about the migrants, right? Because that's not even your political opponent that you're trying to oppose by being racist to. That's you being racist against migrants. You know what I mean? I think it doesn't help your case by saying, oh, he's just being racist to the migrants. I also want to mention that the next president of the party that this man comes from is a 27-year-old. His name is Jordan Bardella. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And is that right, Cindy? Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Excellent. And I was doing some digging on his beliefs, and he wants to restore the national borders, even though his family migrated to France from Italy in the 60s. He claimed Facebook was censoring him when they restricted his account after his racist comments made on the platform. And he weirdly doesn't want to make gay marriage illegal. So that's a bonus, I guess. And he doesn't want France to leave the European Union, but he does want to leave the free movement zone of Europe. So not the greatest views by any stretch of the imagination. Jason, what do you think?
Well, I would say that what he said is, again, racist because it was migrants, but it would be racist if they were citizens. It would be racist if they were, just coming over on a work visa. It would be racist if they're going on vacation. You don't need to tell people to go back to wherever they came from, because it ultimately is racist. There's no two ways about it. And I when I was reading this article, it was just, I'm like, that was the first sentence, and I'm like, are you kidding me? How is this something that's possible? And August, as you said, the punishment fitting the crime. I mean, he is getting far worse than I feel he would be getting in the United States. At worst, he would have gotten sanctioned. And if anybody knows what sanctioning in the United States House of Representatives or Senate is, it's pretty much, dude, you're sanctioned. So he wouldn't be losing money. He wouldn't be, kick him out of the chambers. Are you kidding me? How are they going to completely screw over the country if they don't vote? So that's not something that you would see here. So I applaud France for actually holding them accountable. But the fact that this is something that is on the rise, this is a party that has been growing steadily, and something that's happening all over Europe. Even Germany has had some far right growth in there. Starting in 2017, although they realized what far right national radicals did in World War II, and it's like, oh no, let's go ahead and scale back a little bit. Um, but Cindy, I think you had something else you wanted to add.
Yeah, on top of being racist, it's inhuman. That's something we don't insist enough on, because yeah, it's not like they were on a cruise ship and then decided to stop by and stay. No, they were almost about to die and they were rescued, and then that's what happened. But yeah, France is often viewed abroad as cosmopolitan culture, very diverse. When you see our national teams, like soccer, for example, there are quite a few black people in there. And so people think that racism in France um, is less important than it actually is. It's still very, very much present, although it's much less systemic than in the US. You don't have this political and systemic uh, operation, and like with the police, and it's um, it's very different. It's very different. It's much more directed towards North American people rather than just black people, um, because of history with um, Algeria, especially. But yeah, France is a conservative country, uh, culturally conservative, not religiously conservative. And that's why the far right movement we see right now in the world works so well in France. It's because the conservative ideas are the fuel for um, nationalism. They call to French exceptionalism, which is quite strong in our culture, and it turns it into nationalism or hyper nationalism. They built a mythical story of the country. Like, I don't know if you've seen the comics Asterix. It's the Gallic resisting to the Roman invader again and again and again, thanks to a magic potion, and that's basically the image that the far right built of the French history, and that's why um, part of the reason why the far right is gaining traction here.
I mean,
August?
I would argue that U.S. history and systemic racism is probably a little bit worse than you're going there. But August, what else did you have?
Well, I just want to bring up a very scary point that the article brings up. It said that in the last election, only 8 members of this National Assembly party had places in a 577 seat lower chamber of their government. And now there was 89 seats. That is a gigantic climb. And that is over, Cindy, that's over a short period of time, right, between the elections. So that,
Yes, it's over one election. Yeah.
yeah, that's insane to go from 8 to 89. They went from basically being insignificant and not heard from at all to being, it says, the second biggest political party. That is scary. That
Yeah,
is
here
terrifying.
here in the U.S., we've got our candidates that are definitely far right. Right now, we have two major loud ones in Marjorie Taylor Greene and Boebert,
I
and
was gonna name
unfortunately,
maybe 5.
yeah, I mean, well, they're the loudest ones. Obviously, there are far more that share their views. They're a little bit quieter, but those are the two that are loudest and proudest about it. And that's the thing, is that we've had a steady buildup over the years. We didn't have, like, over just one election, all of a sudden there's a huge floodgate. We have kind of a little bit of ebb and flow of hatred, if you will, and it's still something that's scary. And the fact that it happened over one election in France, hopefully we do not see that here in the US, and hopefully other countries do not see it where they're at. I am concerned that this whole conservative nationalist movement is starting to gain traction overall. And again, France themselves saw firsthand what happens when a nationalist government decides that they want to invade. And I would just, say to them again, recognize what's happening and fix yourselves. Just d- kick those nationalists out before you're doing salutes that are very, very uncomfortable.
Right, and also to add on to the fact that it went from 8 to 89 people, it also says that the National Rally, this far right extremist party, is set to receive 10 million euros of public funding. 10 million euros. Money is what brings a lot of power in addition to having places in the government. So now not only do they have say in the government, they also have money to do things and to, I don't know if lobbying is illegal there, but corruption exists and people don't really care about the law. Clearly, I'm not exactly sure the rules and the laws in France, but money in that kind of at that level is troubling, in addition to the massive gain of seats. And I think this isn't just an idea anymore. This isn't just a fringe group. This is now the second largest party, and France is a powerful nation. I mean, they could do some stuff if they wanted to, and we can't shy away from this. We can't just say, oh well, it's not that bad. We say that every time, and it's a terrible saying, but the frog in the boiling kettle kind of analogy is, it's gonna be slow changes, and then next thing you know, it's horrific. So it's troubling to see from other countries that have power like France does.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue their power ranking overall in the EU, but they do have very, very strong influence. Them and Germany, very strong influence. And again, I applaud Germany for going ahead and recognizing what's happening. We just need, France to go ahead and recognize what's happening as well. Um, what do you think, Cindy?
I think it's going to be harder in France than it was in Germany because um, as soon as World War II was over, Germany started right away to do its job um, to denounce and cure its country from the Nazis. France didn't do that because we had Marshal Pétain who um, decided to cooperate with the Nazis, and he sent some Jews to them. Um, so we France is a bit like the US in this term. It's that we tend to shy away a little bit from accepting what we did in the past, like in Algeria as well. It's very hard in France to say, okay, we did this and we need to make those actions so that it doesn't happen again. Germany did it. They voted laws against everything that hypernationalism and Nazi in appearance or in name or in whatever. France never did that, and now we have this, and I don't know what tools we have to fight this because the 89 representatives were elected and the 10 millions were given by the government because in France there is no private money in elections. It is all public funded and it depends on the results of your previous elections. So as soon as you have a lot of people elected, then you get the money to manage your party that goes with the number of people that were elected. So um, I think it's a very good system compared to the US. Um, it prevents you from having big lobbies like the NRA making laws and buying senators for life. Um, but yeah, I don't see how we can fight this because Marine Le Pen is not even the worst. Uh, there was another candidate in the general election this year, and he was much worse than her. So I don't know. I'm ashamed of what France has been moving towards in the last 15 years, 20 years. Um, that's why I will stay in Belgium probably until my last days. But on the other hand, I just can't help but wondering what we can do to fight back. And right now, I have no idea.
Yeah, the only thing, I mean, not being in France and not studying their political system nearly as much, but they are a democracy of some stripe, and so I would say educate the people. Show them what's happening, show them what could happen. Let them know that there is a history of this. It is not a good history. It is a very dark history, and that if things don't change for the better, that everybody could be in a whole world of pain. And to get to like the whole, because we were talking on like the conservative side of things with the uh, rally party. The other thing is that there's also a far left group called France on Bode, and it's kind of, I would say that France on Bode is kind of like our Antifa, only in that France on Bode really kind of exists versus Antifa being a loose collection of not a whole lot. And a lot of French people, 39%, think that the far right party is good to go with, while France on Bode is considered a more harmful party that really hasn't done a whole lot. So, again, we're seeing a lot of parallels between France and the U.S., but let's not even call it that. Let's just call it, the rise of this nationalism that is inherently completely dangerous for the world. And August, I'm going to let you have the last word on this one.
Well, another thing I wanted to mention is that as I was thinking about it, I was thinking about, the US system of government and how, especially for electing the president, whoever wins the popular vote sometimes doesn't even matter, as we saw with Trump in 2016. Sometimes it's just electoral college votes. And France, as far as I know, doesn't have that. And what that tells me is that it's the people that were voting those people in. And it wasn't just, oh, well, this place has more electoral college votes, so that even though most people disagree with this, it's, still going to be enacted in government and more people will get into government that are in these far left or right, but especially the right, honestly. These are the French people that are voting for these people, as far as I'm aware, and that is also terrifying. It's bad either way. It's bad if you are voting and you feel like your vote doesn't matter because of the fact, like, especially I live in a red state and I I still vote because I have hope. Maybe that's too optimistic, but it's sometimes you feel like your vote doesn't count, but this is the people voting for this. And so I think that adds to the terror here. And Jason, I think you mentioned that we need to try to do something here before it's too late, because we've seen time and time again how these, our country first and we're better than everyone else, and that's coming from someone who lives in the US. I mean, heck, we have so much problems with that, but we we need to get this under control before it becomes more of a problem, because I don't want to know what happens if they get the majority and they have all this funding. And it's also about changing the minds of the people. Unfortunately, in the US, we have a Supreme Court that is now changing laws and interpreting the Constitution in certain ways that are putting us citizens in a place where most of us disagree with their choices, and yet we just have to deal with it because these are people we didn't elect, but that's just how our system works. So I think it's terrifying either way, but to know that the majority, at least, of the French people that are voting for this, I saw a statistic that also said that like 39% of the French people that were surveyed said that they think that the national rally is good to rule and or govern, I guess is a better word. So I think that's pretty scary. That's 40% of people. So I don't know. We need to do something about it.
I agree. And if you don't think your vote counts, just look at this last election, the midterm elections. That red splash or that red wave,
Red droplet.
to quote Stephen Colbert, was more like a pink splash, like when you wash
No,
your
I
clan
voted.
robes with
I
your
don't
MAGA
care.
hat.
I don't really care. I'll vote regardless. It's my right to vote, and I'm old enough to. And you know what? Maybe one day it'll matter, and I'm not going to throw away my vote. I feel like throwing away your vote is the same as voting for the opposition. So I don't know.